Good morning. Happy Friday. I'm so glad Friday is here, y'all. Holy moly. I know I say that every Friday. This girl really likes Friday. I can't help it. I needed Friday to get here. So, all right, let's go ahead and start today's devotion. It looks like it's fairly long, this one, this morning. So, let me fix my chat so I can see the chat. There we go. All right, January 14th. Joseph's dreams, Genesis 37, 1 through 17, which was 1898 or 1732 BC. So Jacob settled again in the land of Canaan, where his father had lived as a foreigner. This is the account of Jacob and his family. When Joseph was 17 years old, he often tended to his father's flocks. He worked for his half-brothers, the sons of his father's wives, Bilhah and Zilpah. But Joseph reported to his father some of the bad things his brothers were doing. Jacob loved Joseph more than any of his other children because Joseph had been born to him in his old age. So one day Jacob had a special gift made for Joseph, a beautiful robe. But his brothers hated Joseph because their father loved him more than the rest of them. They couldn't say a kind word to them. One night, Joseph had a dream, and when he told his brothers about it, they hated him more than ever. "Listen to this dream," he said. "We were out in the field, tying up bundles of grain. Suddenly my bundle stood up, and your bundles all gathered around and bowed low to mine." His brothers responded, "So you think you'll be our king, do you? Do you actually think you will reign over us?" I thought they might be Alicia, because usually there's people on by the time it starts. So I figured there was an issue. Hopefully you can catch up. His brothers responded, "So you think that you will be our king, do you? Do you actually think you will reign over us?" And they hated him all the more because of his dreams and the way he talked about them. Soon Joseph had another dream, and again he told his brothers about it. "Listen, I have had another dream," he said. "The sun, moon, and 11 stars bowed low before me." This time he told the dream to his father as well as to his brothers, but his father scolded him. "What kind of dream is that?" he asked. "Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow low to the ground before you?" But while his brothers were jealous of Joseph, his father wondered what the dreams had meant. Soon after this, Joseph's brothers went to pasture their father's flocks at Shechem. When they had been gone for some time, Jacob said to Joseph, "Your brothers are pasturing the sheep at Shechem. Get ready, and I will send them to you. I will send you to them." I can't read this morning. "I will send you to them." "I'm ready to go," Joseph replied. "Go and see how your brothers and the flocks are getting along," Jacob said. "Then come back and bring me a report." So Jacob sent him on his way, and Joseph traveled to Shechem from their home in the valley of Hebron. When he arrived there, a man from the area noticed him wandering around the countryside. "What are you looking for?" he asked. "I'm looking for my brothers," Joseph replied. "Do you know where they are pasturing their sheep?" "Yes," the man told him. "They have moved on from here, but I heard them say, 'Let's go to Dothan.'" So Joseph followed his brothers to Dothan and then found them there. Joseph is sold into slavery, Genesis 37, 18 through 36. When Joseph's brothers saw him coming, they recognized him in the distance as he approached, and they made plans to kill him. "Here comes the dreamer," they said. "Come on, let's kill him and throw him into one of these cisterns. We can tell our father a wild animal has eaten him. Then we'll see what becomes of his dreams." But Reuben heard of their scheme and came to Joseph's rescue. "Let's not kill him," he said. "Why should we shed any blood? Let's just throw him into an empty cistern here in the wilderness. Then he'll die without us laying a hand on him." Reuben was secretly planning to rescue Joseph and return him to his father. So when Joseph arrived, the brothers ripped off his beautiful robe that he was wearing. Then they grabbed him and threw him into the cistern. Now the cistern was empty. There was no water in it. Then, just as they were sitting down to eat, they looked up and saw a caravan of camels in the distance coming towards them. It was a group of Ishmaelite traders taking a load of gum, balm, and aromatic resin from Gilead down to Egypt. Judah said to his brothers, "What will we gain by killing our brother? We'd have to cover up the crime. Instead of hurting him, let's sell him to those Ishmaelite traders. After all, he is our brother, our own flesh and blood." And his brothers agreed. So when the Ishmaelites, who were the Midianite traders, came by, Joseph's brothers pulled him out of the cistern and sold him to them for 20 pieces of silver, and the traders took him to Egypt. Some time later, Reuben returned to get Joseph out of the cistern. When he discovered that Joseph was missing, he tore his clothes in grief. Then he went back to his brothers and lamented, "The boy is gone. What will I do now?" Then the brothers killed a young goat and dipped Joseph's robe in its blood. They sent the beautiful robe to their father with this message: "Look what we found. Doesn't this robe belong to your son?" Their father recognized it immediately. He said, "Yes, it is my son's robe. A wild animal must have eaten him. Joseph has clearly been torn to pieces." Then Jacob tore his clothes and dressed himself in burlap. He mourned deeply for his son for a long time. His family all tried to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. "I will go to my grave mourning for my son," he would say, and then he would weep. Meanwhile, the Midianite traders arrived in Egypt, where they sold Joseph to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. Potiphar was captain of the palace guard. Judah and Tamar, Genesis 38, 1 through 30. About this time, Judah left home and moved to Adullam, where he stayed with a man named Hira. There he saw a Canaanite woman, the daughter of Shua, and he married her. When he slept with her, she became pregnant and gave birth to a son, and he named the boy Then she became pregnant again and gave birth to another son, and she named him Onan. When she gave birth to a third son, she named him Shelah. At the time of Shelah's birth, they were living in Kezib. In the course of time, Judah arranged for the firstborn son, to marry a young woman named Tamar. But was a wicked man in the Lord's sight, so the Lord took his life. Then Judah said to Er's brother Onan, "Go and marry Tamar, as our law requires of the brother of a man who has died. You must produce an heir for your brother." But Onan was not willing to have a child who would not be his own heir. So whenever he had intercourse with his brother's wife, he spilled the semen on the ground. This prevented her from having a child who would belong to his brother. But the Lord considered it evil for Onan to deny a child to his dead brother. So the Lord took Onan's life too. Then Judah said to Tamar, his daughter-in-law, "Go back to your parents' house and remain a widow until my son Shelah is old enough to marry you." But Judah didn't really intend to do this because he was afraid Shelah would die also, like his two brothers. So Tamar went back to live in her father's home. Some years later, Judah's wife died. After the time of mourning was over, Judah and his friend Hira the Adullamite went up to Timnah to supervise the shearing of the sheep. Someone told Tamar, "Look, your father-in-law is going up to Timnah to shear his sheep." Tamar was aware that Shelah had grown up, but no arrangements had been made for her to come and marry him. So she changed out of her widow's clothing and covered herself in a veil to disguise herself. Then she sat down beside the road at the entrance of the village of Enaim, which is the road to Timnah. Judah noticed her there and thought she was a prostitute, since she had covered her face. So he stopped and propositioned her. "Let me have sex with you," he said, not realizing that she was his own daughter-in-law. How much will you pay to have sex with me?" Tamar asked. This is saucy reading this morning. "I'll send you a young goat from my flock," Judah promised. "But what will you give me to guarantee that you will send the goat?" she asked. "What kind of guarantee do you want?" he replied. She answered, "Leave me your identification seal and its cord and the walking stick you are carrying." So Judah gave them to her. Then he had intercourse with her, and she became pregnant. Afterwards, she went back home, took off her veil, and put on her widow's clothing as usual. Later, Judah asked his friend Hira the Adullamite to take the young goat to the woman and to pick up the things he had given her as his guarantee. But Hira couldn't find her. So he asked the men who lived there, "Where can I find the shrine prostitute who was sitting beside the road at the entrance of Enaim?" "We've never had a shrine prostitute here," they replied. So Hira returned to Judah and told him, "I couldn't find her anywhere. And the men of the village claim they've never had a shrine prostitute there." "Then let her keep the things I gave her," Judah said. "I sent the young goat as we agreed, but you couldn't find her. We'd be the laughingstock of the village if we went back again to look for her." About 3 months later, Judah was told, "Tamar, your daughter-in-law, has acted like a prostitute, and now, because of this, she's pregnant. Bring her out and let her be burned," Judah demanded. But as they were taking her out to kill her, she sent this message to her father-in-law. "The man who owns these things made me pregnant. Look closely. Whose seal and cord and walking stick are these?" Judah recognized them immediately and said, "She is more righteous than I am, because I didn't arrange for her to marry my son Shelah." And Judah never slept with Tamar again. When the time came for Tamar to give birth, it was discovered that she was carrying twins. While she was in labor, one of the babies reached out his hand. The midwife grabbed it and tied a scarlet string around the child's wrist, announcing, "This one came out first." But then he pulled back his hand, and out came his brother. "What?" the midwife exclaimed. "How did you break out first?" So he was named Perez. Then the baby with the scarlet string on his wrist was born, and he was named Zerah. Descendants of Judah, 1 Chronicles 2, 3-6. Judah had 3 sons from Bathsheba, a Canaanite woman. Their names were Onan, and Shelah. But the Lord saw the eldest son, was a wicked man, so he killed him. Later, Judah had twin sons from Tamar, his widowed daughter-in-law. Their names were Perez and Zerah. So Judah had 5 sons in all. The sons of Perez were Hezron and Hamul. The sons of Zerah were Zimri, Ethan, Heman, Kelkol, and Darda, 5 in all. 1 Chronicles 2:8. The son of Ethan was Azariah. Joseph in Potiphar's house, Genesis 39, 1-18. When Joseph was taken to Egypt by the Ishmaelite traders, he was purchased by Potiphar, an Egyptian officer. Potiphar was captain of the guard for Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. The Lord was with Joseph, so he succeeded in everything he did as he served in the house of his Egyptian master. Potiphar noticed this and realized that the Lord was with Joseph, giving him success in everything he did. This pleased Potiphar, so he soon made Joseph his personal attendant. He put him in charge of his entire household and everything he owned. From the day Joseph was put in charge of his master's household and the property, the Lord began to bless Potiphar's household for Joseph's sake. All his household affairs ran smoothly, and his crop and livestock flourished. So Potiphar gave complete administrative responsibility over everything he owned. With Joseph there, he didn't worry about a thing, except what kind of food to eat. Joseph was very handsome and a well-built young man, and Potiphar's wife soon began to look at him lustfully. "Come and sleep with me," she demanded, but Joseph refused. "Look," he told her, "my master trusts me with everything in his entire household. No one here has more authority than I do. He has held back nothing from me except for you, because you were his wife. How could I do such a wicked thing? It would be such a great sin against God." She kept putting pressure on Joseph day after day, but he refused to sleep with her, and he kept out of her way as much as possible. One day, however, no one else was around, and he went in to do his work. She came and grabbed him by the cloak, demanding, "Come on, sleep with me." Joseph tore himself away, but he left his cloak in her hand as he ran from the house. When she saw she was holding his cloak and he had fled, she called out to her servants. Soon all the men came running. "Look," she said, "my husband has brought this Hebrew slave here to make fools of us. He came into my room to rape me, but I screamed. When he heard me scream, he ran outside and got away, but he left his cloak behind with me." She kept the cloak with her until her husband came home. Then she told him her story. "That Hebrew slave you brought into our house tried to come in and fool around with me," she said. "But when I screamed, he ran outside, leaving his cloak with me." Joseph is put into prison, Genesis 39, 19-23. Potiphar was furious when he heard his wife's story about how Joseph had treated her. So he took Joseph and threw him into prison, where the king's prisoners were held, and there he remained. But the Lord was with Joseph in the prison and showed him his faithful love, and the Lord made Joseph a favorite with the prison warden. Before long, the warden put Joseph in charge of all the other prisoners and everything that happened in the prison. The warden had no more worries. Joseph took care of everything. The Lord was with him and caused everything he did to succeed. Joyce, this is the 1-year chronological Bible. It's called Expressions. And on my Amazon, on my link on the top of my Facebook that takes you to my favorite links, the Amazon links has a books section, and this is there. It's not very expensive. It's like $17-18, I think. And it's so good. This will be my second time reading through it, and I absolutely love it. I love the translation. It's easy to understand. It's easy to read, and I love the chronological piece. I have picked up so much from reading the chronological instead of jumping around. I love it. It's been really great. Okay, let's do our devotional, 100 Days of Inspiration, Trim Healthy Mama. We're on day 14. Stamped with royalty. My little 4-year-old granddaughter, Breeze, Serene's daughter, has just run into my office dressed up as a princess, twirling around with happiness as she shows me her dress. In fact, all the little granddaughters love to dress up. They run to the dress-up box when they come to my home and never fail to dress up as princesses. It's inherently within them to do this. It's a God-given instinct. Breeze loves to wear princess dresses every day of the year, even at home. One night at their dinner table, they were talking about marriage. Breeze's sister, Cherish, leaned over to Breeze and said, Breeze, one day your prince is going to come to Daddy and ask him for your hand in marriage. Her eyes lit up with wonder, and then she looked down. But I can't be wearing this dress, she exclaimed, and she began to describe the princess dress and jewelry she would wear and how she would do her hair. As we get older, we succumb to the fashion of this world. We become victims of culture. However, no matter how we change our style, let's always remember that we are daughters of the blessed and only potentate, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. Because we are born in his image, we are stamped with royalty. We are representatives of the royal kingdom. Therefore, let's seek to speak, sit, walk, dress, and act like one who belongs to his holy, glorious, and royal kingdom. Nancy. Strengthen yourself with joy. Nehemiah 8:10 says, "The joy of the Lord is our strength." If we want to stay strong on our health journey, we need to keep the joy around. I so believe that. This is not about enduring, but enjoying. It is important to laugh at yourself when you mess up, smile about the good things you get to eat, confess how blessed you are and how good you are feeling. Decide to make this a happy journey. It won't be a perfect journey, but you can spend it in joyous celebration rather than defeat. This joy will anchor in your strength, and you won't be such easy prey to the wolves of doubt from your own mind or from others. Serene and Pearl. Yeah, you're fine. You're fine. Yep. Milk or meat. 1 Corinthians 3:2. We read, I have fed you with milk and not with meat, for hitherto ye were not able to bear it, neither yet I have fed you with milk and not with meat, for hitherto ye were not able to bear it, neither yet now are we able. I don't know why that was so hard to read. A baby doesn't chew his food before he has his teeth, nor can a newborn of the kingdom comprehend what is too deep. Milk is the ingredient to nourish a new life. The gospel is the milk, the gospel of the Christ. A baby will not grow without it. He will never learn to speak, and no one will make sense if they haven't had a drink. Like a baby at his birth, a Christian cries for life. For Christ himself came through birth. It was for life. He died. But this is not news to us if it was years ago when we first tasted milk, when we were just starting to grow. But did we grow? Did we ever reach our toddler stage? Did we at least reach a point where we could waddle around and play? We were curious, adventurous. Did we discover things? We must have chewed on something because toddlers have their teeth. But were we useful? How did we share the milk if all we did was crawl? An older child can pour a glass if we reach that stage at all. Did our father think us old enough to handle some chores? If we were old enough, we wouldn't suck on milk bottles. Then this is hard to read. Then what are we consuming? Surely something more. Surely all depends upon how much we have explored. What we explored in scripture by learning to perceive. What are we still living on? Is it the milk or is it the meat? It's a poem, and I had a hard time reading that. I don't know why. I don't do well with rhythmic reading at all. Never have. All right, there we go. That is day 14 in our devotion. Oh, yes, I'm so bad at being negative when I mess up or make a mistake. And I tell my children when they make a mistake that's how we learn. Absolutely, Sarah. Absolutely. Keeping the joy no matter what. Because you're right. Mistakes are going to happen. So what? If we were perfect, we'd be Christ, and we're not. So we're going to mess up. That's all there is to it. In all aspects of our life, not just our Christian walk, not just our trim healthy journey, all aspects. So, okay, you guys, thanks for joining me today. I'm going to cook breakfast. It shouldn't take me but a couple of minutes to get ready because I'm going to make veggie hacked oatmeal this morning. I know there are a lot of people that do this already. I have never put cauliflower in my oatmeal, nor have I wanted to. However, I am going to try it today. I'm going to do veggie hacked oatmeal and see how it goes. Oh, I'll be praying for you, Laura. Yes, I'll be praying for your safety and for the dentist, and it'll be fine. It'll be good. I'll be thinking of you. Keep us posted how it goes. All right, you guys, I will see you in just a few minutes for breakfast. Faith, I knew you'd be excited, girl, because you do this all the time. And I've been like, oh, I'm not putting cauliflower in my oatmeal. But then here I am putting cauliflower in my oatmeal. So I'll see you in just a few minutes once I get ready. I love you all. Have a great day. And if I don't see you for breakfast, I'll see you